people are using social media platforms for search more than they're using search engines. Posting is just a very, very small part of social media, but it seems to be what everyone puts their focus on. You've just got to show up and show up consistently.
Likes should not be everyone's most important vanity metric. Not everyone who watches the videos or reads my content likes or comments on it.
The big content that we think, I've spent hours on that, why aren't people engaging with it? Sometimes there's a fear of getting involved with it because they don't really know what to say in response to that. I don't want to like my competitors' thought leadership stuff, but I'm happy to like that they're at an event.
It's not just a publishing platform. You've got to input. If someone's at an event that I'm at and they post and they tag me in it, I'm going to comment on it. I'm then getting to their followers and their reach.
That probably comes across as like, that's really planned.
Yeah.
But it needs to be. This is a business tool and it's strategic thinking. That is how you play the game.
Hey guys, so today I have with me the fantastic, she's actually sat right next to me, Luan Wise. Luan is a LinkedIn B2B, I would say, marketing legend. I've been following her for a while. I've joined lots of her LinkedIn lives, and I promise you, because I've actually just recorded it, today's episode is full of the most fantastic tips that you can go and deploy to make sure your LinkedIn strategies are really delivering for you. She also has this year,
Yes.
brought out 3 new books, one called Planning for Success, which, and Luan, you tell us about it.
Thank you. I've written 3 books this year, so one's not out yet, but you get on a spiral of writing, don't you? You get in the zone. So I started off by trying to write the second version of a book that I started in 2016, and I've been working on that second version for a while, but kind of hit a few roadblocks, but got it done this year, turned it into something completely different. So it was more than a second version. So Planning for Success came out at the end of October. And earlier this year, while I was writing, I got approached by Bloomsbury to see if I could write a small business book for them as part of one of their series. So Social Media for Work, as a really small guide, is coming out on December the 7th. And after I'd written that for Bloomsbury, they then talked to me about another book, which I am writing, will be finished this year, but come out next September, which is a social media book for leaders.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I mean, I need all of these books first up. So, but guys, you are going to learn so much on today's podcast. Luan has just been the most amazing guest. So without further ado, we're going to go to the real recording and I'm going to say hello to Luan again. Hi, Luan, and welcome to Marketing in the Madness.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited today because this has been a game changer for us this year in terms of the focus of our B2B strategies for both us and all of our clients at Street has very much moved to LinkedIn. And you are, I feel like, the queen of LinkedIn. I see you everywhere. I'm not going to say copying you, but you're inspiring me to restart my webinar series as LinkedIn Lives. And I know all my listeners are going to love learning about the strategies and how to make the most of LinkedIn. And what I love about your approach, which is kind of what Street have done today as well, is that you take a very organic approach in terms of the strategies, but of course then also dial that up with paid. So I'm excited to hear and learn with our audience. Before we do that though, can you tell me a little bit about you, your career, and of course what you're doing today?
Yeah. This is going to be a great conversation. I know it's just going to flow, which is amazing. So my name's Luan Wise. I am a marketer. I've been doing this for 20 years, plus slightly. Started off my career working in advertising agencies as an account manager. Back in the day, social media didn't exist. When I worked in agencies, it was very traditional marketing. Did that for probably the first 7 or 8 years of my career. Had an opportunity which was led by redundancy within the agency. The accounts I was working on changed around, but actually always in hindsight, there is always a positive to come out of those shifts when perhaps they are unplanned. And at the end of 2006, beginning of 2007, I moved client side to work as a marketer in-house in an organisation that was new because it was a new marketplace. The postal market had liberalised, so I was working in post with some software for people sending large volumes of direct mail, and I loved it. And within the 5 years that I was there in-house, the organisation grew from 3 to 60 million turnover. We won Fast Track Awards, Software Product Awards. It was amazing and I loved it. Then, obviously, what often happens as well, there was a change in kind of shareholding and shifts within the business. And, where does marketing fit when sometimes there is a change? And it turned out through various conversations that my role changed to, I went to one of the shareholders' other businesses for 2 days a week, stayed within my role for 3 days a week to see if I could kind of help them grow in the same way as I had that business. And then after 6 months of doing that, sat down around the table with my directors, kind of, is everyone happy? What are we doing? Where are we going? And came to the decision with them and with their support to set up my own business as a consultant. And I know now, that was 12 years ago, how incredibly fortunate I was to be able to set up as a consultant with 2 client contracts before I'd even kind of left the room, and continue to work with them as my first clients. Then won another client quite quickly. And if anyone very early in their career is listening, I love my own story of this, in that my first new client for my consultancy business was as a result of contacts from my placement year at university.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of, the importance, and this is why the LinkedIn conversation is going to be so great, I think, is that I found when I set up my own business how important networks were, keeping in touch with people and how almost just kind of telling people what you're doing and then being able to refer you in meetings or have conversations. So that was my third client. And ever since then, so for 12 years now, running my own business, working with organisations, supporting them with their marketing. And a few years into that, kind of then got into teaching and training from a practitioner point of view.
Amazing. I mean, I'm going to tap into your kind of as a female leader right at the end of the podcast, actually. But you've kind of made me really think there is social media has obviously, since, similarly to you, I worked in the world of advertising. That was I was actually working for publishers. That was the kind of first few years of my career. But social media came along, I don't know, when I was in my early 20s, probably. I remember my friend messaging me going, there's this really cool thing called MySpace. And then and then we kind of, all onboarded MySpace and, had a lovely music track playing in the background and created this amazing page. And then it was Facebook. And if you think about why social media was created, and I think sometimes we forget this, it is all about community. I think, obviously, anyone who's watched the Facebook movie, it was all about the community at the universities. That's what it's about. And that is this exactly the same for LinkedIn, but you're building your lead gen or your business community of people that will support you and also may potentially become your next future clients. And I think sometimes we forget that. We use it too much like a sales platform or a publishing platform, but it's a conversation community platform that enables you to start and involve yourself in conversation. So I'm super interested to get your view on all the fantastic things that you do for your clients and how LinkedIn, and I guess other social channels to a certain extent, but predominantly LinkedIn can really help B2B businesses. Yeah. So I obviously work in this kind of similar space, but do slightly different things. Tell me what you see as when people are developing let's really focus in on social media, their LinkedIn go-to-market strategy as a B2B business. What are the biggest barriers that they're coming across?
I think, and this is probably in general as well as social media and LinkedIn, is that when I start having conversations with people, is that they think they are here and want to go here, and you look at what they're doing now and have conversations and you're actually like, we need to take a step back further. And you'll probably find this as well, is people think they can dive straight in to social media, set something up really quickly and go. I will always say, that's okay, but there is no point in putting content out there or starting to push things and build things if you haven't even got your profile right. As simple as, can we see who you are? Are you recognizable from your photo? It sounds really simple, but how many profiles do we look like where perhaps you can't see them or they're head is glued to someone else because it's a family photo shot, or, they're so in the distant and you can't see them and recognise what they're doing. The importance of setting up your profile and getting it ready so that, one, it helps you get found. And I talk a lot with people about you've got to see your LinkedIn profile as putting on your high-vis jacket and letting people find you and see you for what you want to be known for and what you want to be doing and supporting with people. So taking that step back to really spend time on your profile and not see it as I'm just going to cut and paste on my CV and I'm just going to, chop and change these bits here or copy it from someone else's profile because that's a template that I found somewhere. You've really got to get those foundations right, because if you want to be visible and make new connections and approach people and get the response that you want, the first thing they're going to do is look at your profile. So you need to spend time on it.
Yeah, so many people forget to do that.
Yeah.
I would say, though, what do you think about, or I want to ask, I should say, the new AI tool? Mm-hmm. Because it now can look at your profile and write your kind of lead message, can't it?
Yeah.
And I did get some of my team. I mean, I think some of it's brilliant. I did get my team to try it. And actually, I think it's really helped some of their positioning. But what are your views on that?
The AI features are coming into LinkedIn, and I think mostly a premium account. But of course, you could use AI tools outside of LinkedIn and then bring them in. So you don't have to do them within. I think the benefit of ChatGPT and other AI tools is it overcomes the blank sheet of paper. And the thing about your LinkedIn profile, and particularly the About section at the top where you're trying to tell people your story, it's very hard to write about yourself. And it's very easy for us to sit here and go, you should do this and you should do that, because we've been doing it a long time and working with lots of people's profiles. Most people only ever work on their own profile and are very unsure of how to talk about themselves, and should it be more about the organisation, and I don't want to talk about my successes and things like that. So I think it is hard. So I think any tools, whether it's an accountability buddy or a partner or a bit of AI just to kind of take that blank sheet of paper away from you is a good thing.
Yeah, I always think of it like the gun. Like you've got, it's only going to be as good as what you put into it. So if your profile in general doesn't really represent you as well as it could do, using the AI, because it's now it writes your bio for you. Like if you use the bio AI that's built into LinkedIn, if your rest of your profile's no good, it's not going to help you.
And it's about keeping it up to date. So I do a lot of talking about LinkedIn in industry, but also with undergraduates if they're preparing for placements or applying for their first jobs, is that your LinkedIn profile is forward-facing. It's for what you want people to look at today and tomorrow if they're thinking about working with you, in the imminent future. So you've got to keep it up to date as well, and always think about, your business development and your sales pipeline and what you want to be doing next, and make sure that your LinkedIn profile reflects that and it's got the evidence for it and it showcases it. So I think often some people also see it as I need to update it, tick, move on. Whereas actually this is my nature, but, I have a quarterly prompt in my calendar, or if I'm doing something new or, changing something, it's like, does my LinkedIn profile reflect that? If I'm releasing a new course, is there evidence on my LinkedIn profile that shows I am credible enough to have written that course and present it? So I keep it constantly up to date for what I'm doing, what I'm working on, and adjust in my business. If I was looking for more training work, I'd probably steer it towards training. If I was looking for more consultancy, one-to-one work, I'd shift it that way as well. So it really is, for me, more important potentially than my website or anything else that's out there. And it has to do that hard work for me.
It's so true. You know what? LinkedIn for me, I mean, I do love it, but I also sometimes hate it. Because the technology just doesn't work as well as some of the other platforms, but it's brilliant for what it does. It's just that it's not as technologically as further forward as some of the other platforms. So uploading videos sometimes crashes. In fact, nearly every time I upload a video, it crashes. But anyway, apart from that, you're so right, like CVs. I don't even look, when we have people apply for jobs, I don't look at their CVs. What I want to look at, because of the work that we do, is how regularly are they posting on LinkedIn? What does their LinkedIn profile show and say about them? I can see them. I can see the language that they use. I can see the quality of the content that they're posting. It tells me so much more. very rarely even open their CVs anymore because LinkedIn means that I don't need to. The same with when I'm researching companies that we're prospecting to. I don't go to their website as much anymore. I go and look on their LinkedIn profile. How many staff have they got? How often, we're obviously helping them with their go-to-market strategy. So how often are they posting? What's the quality of their content? What are their leadership team posting? LinkedIn gives you, it's an abundance of everything. And it's so true when going back to what you just mentioned, that actually, your websites aren't that important anymore. I mean, they are.
They are. I would say you still need one.
You need one. We're redoing ours. And we were just talking about this outside, weren't we? We're rebranding at the moment. We haven't, we may have done by the time this podcast's out, but probably not. We haven't released the new branding on the website, but I have released it on our social channels because let's be honest, that's where most of my prospects are doing their research on me and my business. So I'm much more focused on the platforms and especially LinkedIn that push us out to market, that are the things that pull people into the funnel, is the platform that pulls people into the funnel. Yeah. Yes, they may then want to go and dig deeper on our website, but I do wonder whether one day we may not need websites. Maybe, our social channels will, and I'm sure this happens quite a lot. Maybe I'm going to start asking my prospects, like, have they even looked at my website? Because we do get inquiries on our website, but I can tell you now, I get 10 times more inquiries on LinkedIn than I do on my website.
I think the only danger of not having your own website is putting all your eggs into something that we don't control or own. So I would say do keep your own website, but
for now.
It's about priorities, isn't it? And actually there's research that's coming through this year and conversations I'm having, around social media in general, as I think often it's been seen as an add-on or the end of a campaign, or let's make sure it goes on social. But the data that's coming through is that people are using social media platforms for search more than they're using search engines. So therefore, they're going to come to your LinkedIn profile. If I was to search for you, your LinkedIn profile would probably come up before the agency website. So I think we have to consider that it's social search first, but your websites do need to be there for reassurance or driving traffic, doing the downloads and everything as a second. Whereas I think historically and perhaps more traditionally, we've seen website content first, and we're going to have to see in 2024, quite a switch, I think.
Yeah, and I think that switch is only going to get bigger because if you look at the younger generations that are coming through, from Gen Z through to Gen Alpha, they do their research on social platforms. So this is not going away. Like my daughter, I've spoken about this a lot, and I love my daughter, so I'd love to talk about her. But she searches our holidays, restaurants, when we're going somewhere, everything on TikTok. Yeah. So again, that's maybe not. We're going to focus on LinkedIn today, but that behavior isn't going to change. And, LinkedIn is the B2B, marketing social platform that most businesses are predominant on. There were some really interesting stats. I'm going to be mean now and ask you some of them. So don't worry if you don't know them. But you said most businesses are doing their searches now on, or when people are looking for other businesses that they need to work with, or people that they're going to work with, are doing their searches on LinkedIn. Do you have any stats around that? Don't have to be exact.
No, not the exact numbers, and not necessarily on LinkedIn, but the data resource that I refer to all the time is datareportal.com, which is updated quarterly. And within that slide deck, it's about 300-400 slides. It's phenomenal, pulling data in from lots of different sources. There is a slide in there around age groups and social media search versus search engine search. And the 16 to 24 and then the 25 to 34 is definitely social before search engines. There's also some slide decks in there around brand discovery and what sources people are using for brand discovery. Is it friends and family? Is it TV? Is it paid for versus, social search? So, the data is in there, and that is what it's showing.
Is Google going to be around in a few years?
Well, isn't Google's search results being integrated with TikTok search results as well? So I think we're going to see more of a shift towards things coming together. But there's also, I worked in websites very early on in my career, so this kind of takes me back. It's about search intent, isn't it? And if we're just browsing, looking for holidays, places to go, it's more, a broader search. Whereas I think websites will come into play when it's a real, I'm ready to buy, I'm ready to transact, I'm ready to download a white paper. So it's going to come into kind of different stages of the funnel, and perhaps that's the shift that we're going to see.
It's interesting, isn't it? Even think, I mean, this is slightly different, but I guess same rules apply. Is, for instance, if I can't find something on a website and it's hard to navigate, I'll actually go to Google to search
Come out
for it, and then
yeah.
it will give me the page and the website that I need because it's hard to navigate. So I think, social media platforms aren't, it's much more organic search. It's not so, you'll find the things that you're supposed to find. You can follow hashtags and, start to make sure that your feed is giving you the right content, but it's a different way of searching.
Yeah, and I think it is scrolling, isn't it? It's a bit more entertaining, or finding someone in the first place and getting to know them. But then when you really want the thing that they do, you're going to go elsewhere.
So I've got a big question.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going all over the place with this, but I'm just going to ask the things that I want to know. I was actually hosting a webinar for Beamer this morning, and we were talking about, date stamping this. We're at the end of November 2023. So everyone's thinking about their plans for 2024. And they were saying, how important is your business page in comparison to your personal page, especially if in your business you don't have that enigmatic character or someone who really wants to put themselves forward?
So I have people coming to me saying, we need a strategy for our company page on LinkedIn. And so my response to that is no. This is, again, diving into something without really knowing the infrastructure and how LinkedIn works. So I believe every organisation does need a page on LinkedIn, whether you're a one-person organisation or a larger organisation. You need to establish your presence. You need to add in your about description and location and number of employees and, all the criteria. Get your page set up. Interestingly, LinkedIn have been adding more features to company pages over time. And I think, again, as we record this, they are just rolling out the ability to message a page, which is going to be a whole nother interesting level in terms of admins getting messages, and will it come through pages versus personal profiles? I've just
started to see that I've got a drop down in my, I guess maybe because I'm always on LinkedIn and I'm premium and I use SalesNav, is that I've got the drop down now for my street agency.
But you have to remember to go into it because it doesn't really flag up. So
I haven't had any messages yet, guys, so please send me some.
I've had one.
Have you?
Yes, an inquiry. So I think pages over time, I'll caveat this with the time step of, I think over time they could become more valuable. But my experience today is have a page, set it up, use it as a content hub for posting kind of your core business messages, maybe like your press releases, your business news, kind of core content. But do that more so that your employees can see it really easily in their news feeds and then share it out. There is data, LinkedIn's employee advocacy report around how people are X number of times more likely to engage if it comes from an employee, more likely to share it, more likely to click through. So the power does all come from the personal profiles. And as much as, we may think in the future of like, oh, where does Katie work? It's you that I know over and above, the company name. And it's you that I would stay in contact with if you moved organisations. So the power of LinkedIn is with personal profiles. Company pages are finding their way a little bit in terms of recruitment and culture, because there's now a life page where organisations can kind of talk about what it's like to work here. So I would say they're kind of a source of information, as you said, if you're kind of researching. But in terms of lead gen conversations, I think that's still very much with the individual profiles.
Yeah, I'm so with you on that. And we are humans. We want to engage with humans. We don't want to, as beautiful and wonderfully branded as my new LinkedIn page is starting to become, it is, the people want to hear from the people. They don't want to hear from a faceless business page. Yeah. But there are some interesting things that I've started to see happen in this space. In fact, a connection of mine, she's the CMO at a fantastic tech company called Exclaimer. They have some technology that enables you to really easily roll out your email signatures. Right. So clever piece of tech. And they have started to do kind of LinkedIn takeovers, which I thought was really cool. We're stealing the idea. I like to steal other people's ideas. Can you tell this? I'm innovating based on research. But they've done some really cool things, and you can see the engagement where they have staff do takeovers. So obviously they're quite a big business. They've got I don't know how many staff, hundreds of staff. So quite easily every week of the year, they can have a different staff member adopt and take control of the LinkedIn page, talk about what they do. So there are some, I think, quite clever things that I'm starting to see people do to help promote their LinkedIn page and give their, because, you know, a lot of companies do have thousands and thousands of, hundreds of thousands of followers sometimes. If it's a big brand or it's a established business, people do follow up. There's a lot of pages that I follow. So they're starting to humanize the page by doing takeovers and things like that. I think that's quite interesting.
It sounds like it's almost like a whole nother, more interactive level of meet the team post, which we love. And, you know, that's always a content quick win.
Yeah.
The other development in terms of the company page, kind of personal page interaction, is you can now run ads for thought leadership posts. So you could run a LinkedIn ad on someone in your team's content. You kind of have to find their content, request permission from the employee. So if one of your team did an amazing post that was, you know, an amazing post, it has to be single image, I think, or, you know, there's a restriction on it, but you could, as the page, promote thought leadership of an individual. I think that's going to be interesting. I don't think it's on video yet.
It'd be so good. Because we did, Maddie, who works for me, shout out to Maddie, she did a fantastic day in the life, because we run a lot of demand lead gen style events, day in the life, where she did this on TikTok. She did a video that we obviously have used for Street. But oh my God, I would love to sponsor that piece of content. But yeah, I think that's where sometimes for me, no offense, LinkedIn is a bit frustrating, because you're like, brilliant, sponsor content. Oh, you can only sponsor a photo or an image or a slide share. You can't, you know, it's almost like not getting there quickly. The technology's not getting there quickly enough.
Yeah, and one of the other restrictions is, and we'll talk about this, is like the LinkedIn events feature.
Yes.
That if you run that from your personal profile where you have all the connections, you can't run an ad for it as a video ad. You would have to do it from the company page connected to it. So it's kind of, at the moment, you kind of have to go through this flow chart of like, this is what I want to do and this is my workaround to get it. And I'm kind of like, I don't want to run a LinkedIn event from my company page because I don't have the followers and the connections, and I don't want to go live on my company page because I haven't got enough people to get notified when it goes live. So it is, they put things in boxes, don't they, when perhaps they don't need to be in boxes.
Yeah, exactly. Let us just make it more free.
Yeah.
Well, of course, Luan, you do some fantastic LinkedIn Lives, lots of them. Yeah. So how are you posting those? So talk me through the practicalities of how you're doing those. Are you therefore doing them from your personal page rather than your company page?
Yeah, so LinkedIn Live events feature has actually been around for a while, probably accelerated during COVID when there was more online events. I was actually part of the early beta testing of it. I'm a LinkedIn Learning course instructor, so sometimes we get some early features, and not everyone has access to LinkedIn Live. So first you have to have a creator mode account. You also have to meet some additional criteria to kind of get access to go live. I think it's like number of connections and have you created video content before? So there's a bit of a kind of a form to fill in potentially. But I tried out LinkedIn Lives. I actually did my first series early in COVID, and their advice is to kind of see it like a TV series. So a bit like a podcast series, and it works really well if you're interviewing. They wanted to avoid kind of being a bit meta about it and like not going live to talk about LinkedIn on LinkedIn. So it is kind of for this kind of content. So I have been trying them. I did them early in COVID, and recently in the run-up to my book launch, I did a whole series on diving deep into the topics. So yes, I set them up on my own page because that's where I have my followers. I love that you can set it up and then invite your connections. You can add the other speaker to it. Once the other speaker or anyone that kind of accepts the request to come along to the event can then invite their connections as well. But what I particularly love is one, it's easy. It's a one-click thing to kind of notify your connections. So you don't have to send lots of messages or get people to register. So it's quite a nice way to get back in touch or get in front of people who you've been connected with for a long time. I'd say on that, the title of your LinkedIn Live event has to be really appealing. It can't just be generic. You know, people need to know what this is. But then when you go live, and you have to do that through a third-party tool, so I use StreamYard. That's really easy. As soon as you finish the event, the recording is there so people can watch it. So I found you get sign-ups. you get a certain number of people that watch it live, but the numbers within like the first 3 or 4 hours are higher than I would ever achieve on YouTube or something, like hundreds, if not into the thousands, depending on what the topic of that conversation was.
Because people can go back and sit. So does it pin itself to your profile, or can you pin it to your profile afterwards?
So it sits on your profile, and if you wanted to put it at the top as a featured post, then you could, yeah.
Yeah, I loved your tip earlier, by the way.
Thanks.
I didn't kind of say about that, but I'm going to set something in my diary. I might even do it monthly, just to make sure that I'm pinning the most relevant posts, pinning the most relevant LinkedIn Lives that I'm now starting to host, and things like that, because I do think, like you say, that the relevancy of the up-to-date content on platforms like LinkedIn is super, super important in terms of positioning yourself to market. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Great tips.
The biggest value I've seen from the LinkedIn events, and I will say, you said at the beginning about doing things organically, and I do things organically, and I've shared this with a couple of people who kind of went, you really do that? But yes, is that when people have registered for a LinkedIn Live event, you see them in the networking tab, and you can see whether you're already connected to them first or whether you're not, a second or third. And after an event, I go through that networking thing and I message everyone. So if it's a first level connection, hi, thanks for registering. Hope you're able to catch it. You know, I can kind of remember if they were in the live chat or not. If you missed it, here's a link to the recording. Second, third level connections. Thank you so much for registering. Don't know if you caught it live. The recording is now available here and I'd love to connect with you. So I diarise my planning like a couple of hours after the LinkedIn Live is finished to network with those people that engaged. And the last one I did, I had 100 new connections in a day that were all relevant to who I wanted to be connected to. And I've had conversations since and have had new business opportunities out of doing that. Cost me my time.
Yeah, and that's it. I think it is a networking and community platform, and that's what we need to remember. It's not just about the broadcast. What's important is the conversations that you create afterwards and those connections that you can make. And we've pushed out our event. We've got 120-ish, I think, people registered so far. And it was interesting. I went on the other day. I was like, I wonder who's registered. Are they people that I know? And some of them are, of course, are our perfect prospects. Some of them are our existing clients. Some are people that are in my network who, probably like yourself, that kind of do similar things to us. But it's really great to see that. And then anyone else, I just went through and I added a connection request because I was like, I don't know them. That's interesting. Because the influence that I can have and the opportunity that I have to create leads is all to do with, lots of different things, but the reach. So the more people that I have to enable my influence, and then, of course, making sure that the subjects and everything else resonates. We will talk more deeply about strategy, I am sure, in a moment. But it's super important to make sure that the more people you're connected with, the more people you're bringing into the funnel. And then as long as you're continuing to show up with that valuable content, it really works to, help you build those leads and develop those new biz conversations. On that, I had something else. I had quite a funny week this week. Okay. Well, I was talking about all the dramas of my week, but work-wise, I had 2 new business meetings, and it really made me think about why likes should not be everyone's most important kind of vanity metric on
I saw
LinkedIn.
your post on this. Yeah.
Did you?
On the way in.
I literally posted it this morning because I sometimes this week my posts have not got as many likes as normal. I don't know if something's happened in the LinkedIn algorithm. I felt like my content's been quite good, but for whatever reason, I haven't had as many likes. And then I went for 2 meetings and with new business meetings, and 2 of the clients in 2 totally separate meetings were like, oh my goodness, you feel like it's meeting a celebrity. I was like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. Like, no, definitely not a celebrity. But neither of them, one of them I'm not connected with, but must follow me. The other one, I know, but I've never noticed either of them liking or commenting on any of my posts. And this is why I think you worry so much, oh my gosh, my post only got 10 likes or something. I have had some posts that have got nearly 1,000 likes. I've got some that I posted this week that maybe got between 10 and 20 likes, which isn't normal for me. But the reality is I'm still in the feed. Not everyone who watches the videos or reads my content likes or comments on it. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that I reach that don't actually engage. And then there's the other part there where some of the posts that I did this week had really low likes, but might have had 40 comments. So the engagement was good. So when I was looking at it, it's not just about the likes, it's about reach and it's about engagement.
It's a game, isn't it? And it's a mind game, and you know, you're looking at this stuff all the time, trying to find some logic in there. And I don't think we will ever find any logic. You're right. I think it's about visibility. And if I'm talking to anyone about this, it's you've just got to show up and show up consistently. And whether that's every day, which I actually think is too much, whether it's twice a week, once a fortnight, you've just got to keep showing up and do it consistently. So not like a yo-yo, like my pipeline's quiet, I need to be on LinkedIn every hour, versus, oh, I'm really, really busy, I haven't got time for that. You've just got to keep showing up and showing people what you're doing. The likes thing is really interesting because, you know, we look at other people and you kind of see their posts and go, why have they got so many likes? And then, like, it's similar to my, like,
yeah, why is mine not getting it?
I think there's something around content that is likable. So, you know, we do need a mixture of content, and we do want to put out the kind of the big thought leadership content versus the here's a photo of me doing something kind of content. And I think that mix is really important, and people do see it and they do clock it. But sometimes the big content that we think, I've spent hours on that, why aren't people engaging with it? It's because sometimes there's a fear of getting involved with it because they don't really know what to say in response to that, or they don't have a comment to get involved with that conversation, or don't know where to go and just want to see it. Whereas some of the what I would call more the lighter content, like here's a picture of me with some students at a university, or here's a picture of me as a speaker at something, it's easier for people to like it because they don't need to add an in-depth comment, or it doesn't reflect on them if perhaps they're in your world and say, you know, I don't want to like my competitors' thought leadership stuff, but I'm happy to like that they're at an event. So it's kind of some content I just feel is more easy for people to get involved with and get the likes versus the stuff that you think, this one should have had the likes because I spent hours on it.
Yeah.
They are still seeing it. And I spend as much time sending one-to-one messages as I do big public ones.
Nice.
As well. So I think there's also a shift to that in terms of I'd much rather have a really in-depth, you know, conversation in my inbox than 20 comments on a post publicly.
Well, if you look at where a lot of social platforms are going, and an interesting one to watch on LinkedIn, it is community-based. I mean, look, you can set up groups on, I think LinkedIn's been doing that for a long time, so I guess private groups are community, really, aren't they? But, you know, if you look at the way, you know, Instagram is going, you can now have got channels. You know, they're taking, it's not just about the open public conversation, it's about how you can build more conversation into a community element. So it's not just commenting on posts, it's really taking the commenting on posts element into a private chat that you might exclusively be invited to, which makes you feel a bit special. So I do think there's something that is going to be a big focus for us next year in terms of, you know, branding things up. So our LinkedIn live series is going to be called The Demand Generation because it's all about demand gen. And, you know, I am going to develop a community group off that people can join and continue the conversation offline. But maybe within the online environment somehow. We're working that through at the moment. So I do think there's some super interesting things happening. And it is, you know, we all want to have loads of likes, but it isn't the most important thing. It's about your content getting the reach and engagement and the resonation. Resonation, is that even a word? The resonation. I've made it up if it's not. You know what I mean? Yeah. Does it resonate? Yeah. So I think that's important. One of the questions I was going to ask you, Luan, I've got literally so many that I want to ask. So I love new technology and I love it when the platforms bring out new elements to the platform. So I've been trying to do things like you can now contribute to articles. So articles that are, you know, in the space that I, you know, on B2B marketing, for instance. So I'll, you know, go and make my comments. I mean, I've probably not been doing it enough to get as much out there, but you were talking about having, you know, different types of content. How important, and do you think LinkedIn prioritise your content and like you more if you get involved with the new features?
I can't answer for LinkedIn and what they prioritise, but I think what we can think of is across all social media platforms, when they introduce something new, they push it. You know, Instagram and Reels, they told us that. We do know, and there was an update out from LinkedIn within the last few days around how collab articles are getting more engagement versus what they didn't say. I have quite a strong opinion on collab articles at the moment, and I'm always open to change and how these work, in that there are lots of features within social media platforms, and sometimes you can try something new but prioritise and say, actually, I could get better results by sticking to my own articles or my own posts. And the reason that I'm a little bit reluctant to get involved with the collab articles, even though I would love the badge that people are getting and the top voice badge, which apparently does disappear after 60 days. So it is about rewarding loyalty.
Well, there's two types of badge. There's one that just because you're awesome.
Yeah.
And then there's one that if you contribute enough, you get it.
Yeah. Which is nice. And you see that people are getting badges, and it's great to be rewarded with those. And I'm sure they will do something to kind of, prioritise your content, because we want to see more of what we enjoy. My challenge with collab articles, and again, I had some early access and played with them quite a while ago, was that these articles are being generated by AI. And one particular article that I saw was around advertising and competitions and how to run a competition and the terms and conditions. Now, I spend quite a lot of time doing competition, support on social media platforms, and I knew that this AI article was wrong against the terms and conditions of Meta, and I kind of was reading it going, this is actually wrong, and a human hasn't checked this. So, I contributed to it going, actually, this is incorrect, and here's the Facebook's terms and conditions and things like that. So it kind of bothered me a little bit that there hadn't been a human intervention at some point, and that if anyone else had read that article, and I'm not saying, I saved it, but if someone like me hadn't gone, this is wrong, that people could have taken that article as the way that they should be doing things. So I have a challenge around that. I also have a challenge around, I'm seeing them in my notification now, like someone has commented. And I think that's valuable because that's kind of bringing them to the fore. But I see that, this article has 126 contributions. I'm not going to read an article that's that long with that many inputs.
It's too much.
It's kind of too much. If I was studying it or researching, or, there may be a value at that point, but as perhaps like in my day-to-day role and what I'm doing, I'm just not going to dive into that. And if there's no kind of, this is perhaps what, my love of academia comes in. I need the citations, I need the evidence, and it would actually come back to, I would need to go and check out that person's profile to see if they were the right people to be giving that advice as well. So I kind of think, I love the idea of contributing articles, but it's probably not best use of time versus building your own network, having one-to-one conversations and staying in front of who you're already connected to with your own thoughts.
Yeah. What would be better, LinkedIn? I've just had an idea. The top contributors and the people with the voices, they should write the initial articles and create the collaborator article, because then it starts authentically. If AI are generating it, like you say, often it may not be right. I mean, look, AI is amazing, but to me, you can see when people are, the amount of posts I'm now seeing on LinkedIn that have clearly been created by ChatGPT and designed content that's being created by ChatGPT. It doesn't look, and people that I kind of respect in the industry, and I'm like, really, guys, you're putting that out? Like, it's so obvious that it's ChatGPT, that you have to use AI in the right way to get the right value.
Yeah, and I think just my only point of that is that I don't know, and I haven't got a badge, but are the badges just being rewarded based on number of comments rather than any additional kind of context? Because we could all sit there for 3 days and become an absolute expert and bash those comments out. I want some human editorial on it.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that's a very good point. Another question. Yeah. All about firing the questions at you today, Luan. Articles. So putting an article on LinkedIn versus putting it on your website.
Okay. So again, this is when you've used platforms a long time, isn't it? I had an amazing success with an article many, many years ago. I wrote an article, posted it on my LinkedIn. It got thousands of views really quickly, and I got approached by people, and I got speaking gigs and winning. Now, if you did an article, it's a little bit tumbleweed, isn't it? I now advocate using an article if you have written something elsewhere and you want to almost like copy and paste it onto your LinkedIn profile and then pin it as a featured post. I don't think you are going to get much traction, engagement with an article. You certainly don't get the numbers, because the numbers are only if you click through and view it versus scroll past it in the post. So I wouldn't advocate writing an article just to go on LinkedIn, but if you have them elsewhere, I'd copy and paste it over and then at the bottom put this first appeared on.
Yes, nice.
And then a link through, so that you're trying to kind of drive traffic elsewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer yet in terms of LinkedIn newsletters, because we could kind of see that as a form of an article.
Yes, that's interesting, actually. There are some
But
that
I
I
am
get.
using them.
Yeah. Because do they? Because I follow someone, do I automatically get their newsletter?
So if you follow, well, I think if you start following or connecting with someone, they can invite you to subscribe to their newsletter.
Yes.
The thing I do like about newsletters is that you can receive them in your email inbox rather than having to go LinkedIn. So I think there is a benefit. I think it depends on how you work and what you do. So I've been using LinkedIn newsletters again for a while. I helped someone on the C-suite kind of create a monthly roundup newsletter of all of their content from the month.
Nice.
So it was kind of a repurposing thing.
Brilliant.
I work with a couple of clients where we create an email newsletter and again, just kind of copy and paste that into LinkedIn. So again, I'm not sure I would advocate doing it just for LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not like your email where you're getting the data and the opens and all that kind of stuff, but use it for repurposing.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the difference between it's not an owned platform. It's this, like you said earlier, the risk of putting everything on there and not putting it on your website is you don't own it. You don't own the data. You can't. There's a certain element you can see, but you can't see everything.
Yeah.
Are there, sorry, and I might be asking a question you don't know the answer to, are there any good, just because I'm looking for one, reporting tools that you know about that will help with the data side of things in terms of looking at the results, engagements? We've used a few over the years. I'm looking for a new one, more specifically for LinkedIn, but anything that helps you, I guess, interrogate the data of your performance on there.
Yeah. I love that we're moving into a data question now. There's a challenge with LinkedIn in that their data is usually quite limited. They don't open up their APIs to many third-party tools. And when they do open up data to third-party tools, I always kind of think, well, I must be able to find that within the platform rather than need something else, which is just going to be kind of dragging it out. There is a challenge around data on a company page, which would impact the others if it's aggregated data. It's not like individual users or individual followers. It's also skewed by your employees. So if you had a very large organisation, all of those employees that are attached to your company are going to skew your data from the start. I think with any social media platform, there is so much data available. We could sit here for an hour afterwards and pull out and produce fancy presentations. I think you need to pull it back to what were we trying to do when we were doing those posts or doing those LinkedIn Live events or creating newsletters. What did we want to achieve? And then go and find the answers to it. So was it I wanted to build my network and add X number of new followers and have X number of new conversations? Was it I wanted to do that newsletter to drive people to an event registration or a download on the website or something like that? So I think just measuring the tactical outputs is going to give you lots of numbers, but not necessarily meaningful. Let's pull it back to why we were doing it in the first place and look at the results.
Yeah, exactly. Why did I do this?
Yeah.
Has it achieved against the metrics that I set out in the first place?
Yeah.
Or what, the outcomes that I wanted. I love that. And to be fair, LinkedIn, like you say, it's got some great reporting in itself. Yeah. I love looking at, just such rudimental, basic things, but my audience and the type of, because you can then go in when you look at your posts and you can look at all of your posts or individual posts, and I can look at, because I'm a creator, I can see the size of the companies, the different job roles, the seniority of the people that are engaging with my content, the sectors that they work in, where in the world they are. So just that on its own, for me, is so interesting.
Because you try and piece it together in your own head, don't you? Look at the companies and go, oh, I haven't worked with them. Or, oh, well, I did a session for them last week, so that's why they're on my... You can kind of... But you have to have other context to it. You can't just take the data that the platform shows you by itself. You have to kind of almost work out why for yourself of like, well, it's because of this, or
Yes.
it was because of that, or that's interesting. I'm going to go and dive off into that because why are all these job titles looking at this content versus not that one as well? And just another story it's not just about the data on LinkedIn, because what I found recently, I had an amazing opportunity. I went to Turkey to deliver a talk, quite unexpected, last minute, went to do this global summit, and I posted on my LinkedIn that I was there and I was about to do this big talk. I've never had so many WhatsApps, private messages, emails saying, "Oh my God, that looks amazing. How did it go? Are you okay? Are you extending your trip?" So actually the amount of messages, like not just on the LinkedIn post and within within the platform, but what it pulled in elsewhere as well was amazing when there was kind of like this big thing.
Yeah, it is. Similarly, I went to Web Summit 2 weeks ago and got so many because I was like, I'm just going to say that I'm here. And so many people reached out to me, I'm here too. Again, they didn't like the post. They didn't engage it.
Exactly.
But that's what I mean. We really have to think about the reach. And it's super interesting how certain things, like you say, sometimes you have no idea.
Yeah.
Why did that go viral and this one didn't?
Yeah.
I don't know. Or I do find with me, my posts, and I do try to, we're going to go into strategy in a second, but I do, I do my own, I can't talk today. I do my own posts still. It's one of the first things, my kind of rule is I try to post, because probably someone told me to, but also I do see better results between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. most days, because I think that's, I'll capture people. And I actually try personally to do it before 9 a.m. And we have a content strategy, but I keep my personal posts really authentic about what I'm, I know what I'm doing. I know how I'm helping my clients. I know what's frustrating me. Therefore, I know what's highly likely going to be frustrating my clients. So I keep probably, 70% of my posts about that. But then I do try and interlace more about Katie, because people need to buy me and understand who I am, as well as understand how I can help them. Yeah. So if I'm only ever putting thought leadership out, that becomes a problem. Yeah. If I'm only ever, and we were at risk of doing this at one point, putting the podcast content out, I become a podcast publishing channel, and that's not what I'm there to do. So I try to accidentally on purpose have diversity in my content, and it's my personal posts, we can't plan as well as we plan our posts for street, because I just think it takes the authenticity away. I want to react to what's happening right now. Yeah. And I don't know, and I know lots of people will disagree with this, and and I have tried doing this before, which is why I probably don't want to again. I don't think I will ever give up. Come back to me if I have, running my own posts on my page, because yes, people can intimidate me. Intimidate me? No. What's the word I'm looking for? Can adopt my language, not intimidate. Oh my God, what's the word I'm looking for?
Impersonate, but that's
impersonate.
not...
No, that is what I'm trying to say. Impersonate me, not intimidate me. Yeah. People can impersonate me. Yeah. But it's never me. And I'm not ready to... I'm just not ready to give that up. And I don't know that I ever will be. And I like it to be real. And some days it takes me 5-10 minutes to write something and think about something. The post I did today, I actually thought about yesterday. So I started writing it yesterday, posted it this morning. But I like it to be real and relevant to what's going on right now. So I actually don't plan it that much. And I like to keep it authentic. What are your kind of views on when you're or what do you tell people to do when you're advising them with their personal profiles on LinkedIn?
I'm with you on, I do it myself and I do it in the moment. And also I think just because of the nature of how I run my working day, I do it quite early in the morning as well. For me, my content kind of aligns with my diary and what I'm doing. So I try and talk about, I look at my calendar for the week and go, I've got that on Friday. I'll post about that on Monday, or this is going on. I'll post about that then. But I do that in a way that I know that I need to probably space my posts out. And sometimes I look at my diary and go, that would be too much content. How am I going to do this? And I think that kind of content works really well, because you're kind of showing people what you're doing and what you're working on, and it feels comfortable doing it. Because I'd say there's a real thing around what I'm posting feels icky and salesy, and people don't like it. So I say, align it with your diary and what you're working on. with events, that is one of the reasons why I do a lot of events, because it gives me content before, during and after. That's my comfort zone. I know some people, and they will also say if they're scrolling LinkedIn, it's very personal stories and where do you feel on sharing personal stories or not? And I say to people, it's finding your own boundaries or what you're comfortable with. And some people are very happy to be sharing about outside work or how they feel about something or their approaches to leadership. Some people aren't quite so comfortable doing that. And my response when I kind of have these conversations, and I had quite a few around Mental Health Day that was quite recent, with people kind of sending me a message going, I think I should post something, but I'm not really sure. Should I or should I not? And I'm not ever going to say you shouldn't post about this or that you should. My answer was, how do you feel about sharing this with lots of people that you perhaps don't know? Would you perhaps rather have that conversation over a cup of coffee with someone that you do know well, and to almost have that thought in your mind of, do I want the world to know this? Am I comfortable with that? Or actually, is that something that I would rather have when I know, like, and trust someone in a different context? It doesn't all have to go publicly. My other answer was also, you can't just do this on one day. It has to be part of your ongoing narrative. And so I think that's why, if we both are talking about events we're going to and what we're doing and what we're working on, people almost coming on that, we'll do the celebrity thing, our X Factor journey with us, and they're enjoying seeing what you're doing and what you're working on and how you're progressing or what you're succeeding or what's challenging. So I think aligning with your diary and just telling your personal story makes it easier, and it just makes it a habit. No doubt, we've both taken photos. We know that we'll both go and post later saying, had a lovely morning.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel forced or terrifying to do that. So I think you've got to kind of just find how it works for you and how you feel comfortable. And for me, a lot of that was also just observing what other people do and kind of going, I like that.
Yeah.
I could do that, versus, I don't think I could go there. That really doesn't feel me, and I'd be uncomfortable doing that. I'd rather have that conversation over a coffee.
Yeah. Do you know what? The other thing that I've really noticed when I do, so those posts for me, I did one. Actually, I didn't do it on Mental Health Day because I probably was having a mental day.
You did it the day after.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
And that post got about 500 and something likes. I did not expect that to happen, but I talked quite openly about my mum's got bipolar. I think everyone knows this now. My mum's got bipolar, and I've had to deal with, I've had my own mental health struggles over the years. But, I was quite open and I guess talked about it and how it affects me as a founder and a business leader. That attracted, I think I got like 1,000 new followers in about 2 days off the back of that post. I got 500 likes. It, went probably more viral than most of my posts usually do. But the risk, there's a good outcome and a bad outcome from that. The bad outcome is that it's pulled in loads of people that probably aren't my audience, aren't leads for me.
Yeah.
Like, not to be really selfish,
It's
but
like
of
competition
course,
entries, though, isn't it? It's people that just like to enter competitions versus ever going to buy the stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily my relevant audience that I want to engage with and attract. So that's why you think about micro-influencers. Yeah, it's all well and good me having hundreds of thousands of followers, but I don't need hundreds of thousands of followers.
Just need some to buy.
It's the ones that I want to engage with, the people that are my audience and are potentially likely to be my future clients, really, on LinkedIn. Yeah. That's what I'm looking to do. Not that I don't love the rest of you, of course I do. But
we're running businesses at the end of the day.
The danger is doing those kind of posts is you build an audience that isn't really, they're going to care about 5 or 10% of my content, not the other 85%, which is going out all the time. Yeah. So there is a danger in that you're going to build an unengaged audience, and it's probably not overly going to be, the other content's not going to be relevant for them. That being said, that post has helped me connect with other females and leaders in my world that have had similar things in their lives. Like literally every week, someone was like, I read your post. Yeah. I had similar with my mum. I spoke to someone yesterday who said that. I went for lunch with someone in London this week who's sold her agency to Omnicom, and I feel like is now going to be my life coach. Yeah. She's a few years ahead of me on everything. Not that I'm hoping to sell to Omnicom anytime soon. But it's enabled me to connect with other female leaders in my space because I was brave enough to be open about my experiences. That people are now returning that. And that's been a really for me, that's been really, really lovely.
Yeah.
So I will talk about more of that kind of stuff. But I'm also aware that a lot of the people that engage with that, farmers or like not going to be relevant for my other content.
Yeah. And you use the word brave there, and I agree. I think it was brave, and it's a very big decision to decide to do that kind of content. And maybe 12 months ago you perhaps wouldn't have done it and now you will continue the conversation. I'm not in that place to do those kind of conversations, but seeing other people do them helps. It has in the past made me pick up the phone to someone and say, are you okay? And has developed that relationship. If you're not perhaps so comfortable and brave, my approach to it was actually, if I saw something, I would send people private messages going, thank you for sharing. It was, thank you for sharing your story. Or I was sharing resources. So, for example, Mind have done a brilliant PDF recently around how to talk about mental health on social media and to alert people of their triggers. So I do think there's ways for everyone to get involved, but you have to find your own way of doing it.
Yeah, totally. And, it's nice that you're able to share the lows as well as the highs. Because I think the other thing with social media, and definitely LinkedIn, and you see it, it's almost like the things that get the best engagement are the really horrible things that are happening to people or the really good things that are happening. In between, day to day, people don't care about as much. But we celebrate the big wins and the I've sold my business or I've won this award. And then we celebrate almost or support in a different way oh my God, I've had to liquidate my business or this has been a real struggle for me. What I do think is important for me to remember in my context, because people see me and they'll be like, oh my goodness, you're doing amazing. Yeah. I've actually had a really tough time in my business over the last 2 or 3 months. We're getting out of the weeds at the moment and it's going to, that's running a business. Sometimes it's really bad. Sometimes it's really good. I definitely think, so people will speak to me and they'll be like, oh my gosh, it looks like you're doing, I'm so stressed. It looks on the outside that you're doing really well. So I do feel like being more real is important to me, because I don't want everyone to think it's like this lovely upward trajectory.
Super shiny.
The reality is it really isn't. Yeah. And, we need to share that more, because maybe I didn't realise that before I set up my own business. So I do think being real and sharing the lows as well as the highs is important. I just need to work out how I do that without like crying on screen or something.
Or maybe it's one of those gradual things. We've been on social media for a long time. We're in a place where we feel more comfortable doing it. At the moment, I feel more comfortable. If you said, so how was your trip? I'd go, well, on LinkedIn, it was like this, but behind the scenes, it was like this. And maybe in 6 months' time, I'll be doing that more on LinkedIn. I think it's about finding your own way to do what you feel comfortable. And that is the thing about social media, is as much as it is public and people can do it and you can achieve all this reach, you still need to stay in control of it.
Yes.
And I'm not very good at this, but create your own boundaries as well. The hours you work when you're scrolling and things like that. Social media can be hugely overwhelming and feel like it's taking you out of control as well. So actually, we do need to protect ourselves a bit on it.
100%. It's a minefield and one that we need to navigate carefully.
For ourselves.
And exactly, for ourselves. It's got to be authentic.
Yeah.
We've covered so much. I haven't talked as much about I think we've kind of interlaced strategy throughout. Yeah. But strategically, a lot of people are thinking about planning for 2024 now. When it comes specifically to LinkedIn and their go-to-market strategies, have you got any tips that will help them, I don't know, get started on that blank piece of paper?
Yeah. I always love January and September, because it's like everyone's made a new resolution and they're going to suddenly do everything and it all becomes very busy and lively and everything. I would advise people that, and that's great if you do want to do more. I think always in marketing and social media, we always have this, I should be, I could be, and the word more follows after it. And I think you can throw more at it, whether it's time or resources or content, but actually I just use the word focus and strip it back and go, like the data, what do you want to achieve and how can LinkedIn or something else help you get there? And then what features within it will help you get there? And I think we've had a really turbulent few years and, we've pivoted and gone off track and had to change things. I think it's time to really focus on a big picture and long term and then just take small steps towards it all the time, rather than trying to go in all singing and all dancing, I'm going to do all of this stuff, because then it will stick. And then you'll be able to be consistent and, get the results over the long term. Our numbers now are probably very different to what they were 2 or 3 years ago. And it's because people, as I said, kind of see that journey and they come with us and see what we're doing and they come along to one event and they enjoy it. So they'll come back on the next one and the next one. And it's about having that series of content, not just trying to do big blasts every now and again. So I think my advice for 2024 is take a step back, focus on some objectives and write them down, and then just kind of take the small steps and build it so that things are sustainable.
Yeah, make it realistic.
Yeah.
I think that's the error that I see so many people do. They have all these grand ideas.
Yeah.
And I do make them happen somehow.
I do that, yeah.
But you have all these ideas. You have to bring it back to what's going to be the most effective, what's realistic for me to be able to achieve.
Because otherwise we'll be in mid-February and people, it's not working.
Yeah.
I've done all this stuff and it's not working. You're like, you've probably only done 4 posts. So, they're looking for overnight success or a big win or why am I not getting these numbers that everyone talks about? And it just doesn't happen like that. So you've got to see it as you've got to see everything, I think, as a long-term game.
100%. Our LinkedIn profiles, well, I don't even know when I set LinkedIn up, maybe in my teens or early 20s, whenever it was. That's how long it's taken me to get to where I am today. Yes, the platform's evolved and changed, and I'm much more targeted in my approach to it today than I was 5 years ago before I had my own business. Yeah. But nowadays, it's about that consistency for me. I do try and post every day, not weekends, and not every day. If I don't post, I don't beat myself up about it, but consistency and knowing over time things get better, not expecting on day one when you've done your first post. Your first post might be rubbish. Your second post might still be quite rubbish. Yeah. You're going to learn and grow with it. So give yourself the time, set realistic goals for yourself, because then it will happen and you'll stick at it. Yeah.
And it is not just about your posts. It is about commenting, engaging, finding new people and responding to invitations you get, responding to who's looking at your profile. And so posting is just a very, very small part of social media, but it seems to be what everyone puts their focus on. So I spend as much time and almost being in that mindset of I need to say congratulations. I need to say well done. I need to engage with people, because then there's that kind of warm, fuzzy feeling, isn't there? If someone, I was at an event last night and I got back and I sent messages like, lovely to see you and I loved your presentation, and, and the messages that come back are then, I feel like I've made new friends rather than, I've got 10 new connections.
Yeah,
I want friends.
I'm going to talk about it in a much more selfish way, but I am doing it genuinely in the same way as you are. But I will comment on my clients' posts because I know on their post is going to be all the other stakeholders who I need to influence in their business for my next project, plus probably their competitors, plus maybe some of their clients. So it's not just a publishing platform. You've got to input. If someone's at an event that I'm at again and they post and they tag me in it, I'm going to comment on it. If someone posts about the podcast, I'm going to comment on it, because I'm then getting to their followers and their reach, and that enables me to have more connections. And sometimes I'll look at their post and I'll connect with some of the people because I know that they'll have seen me comment, or even a lot of the time they'll have done that to me before I've even done that. So it's about adding value in other places rather than just your post.
Yeah. And that probably comes across as that's really planned. Yeah. But it needs to be. This is a business tool, and it's strategic thinking about how to be visible in front of the people that I need to be visible for. And if that is with a comment or a like or a post that is going to resonate with the people that you're having a meeting with next week, that is how you play the game.
Yeah, and it is most of the time. As much as it is planned, it's also I'm also saying genuine things. But I'm doing it because I want to win another client. Yeah, that's why we're all on LinkedIn. Yeah. Luan, you have been just the best guest. I have one last question for you. Yeah. So at MadFest next year, I am helping put together the Female Leaders stage, which I am super excited about. So everyone I have on the podcast, I am asking what you think can be done in the industry, things that you've seen other businesses do, things that you've, experienced in your career, or changes that you think that can be made to help make the playing field a little bit more level, to give other women the confidence like we have to go and set up our own businesses, to go and ask for that pay rise? Have you got any, I don't know, ideas or things that you know work really well or could work really well?
I think it's going to be amazing. What I find, so I do a lot of talks and sessions at universities, and I love when a current student will send me a message afterwards, and then I'll kind of say, if you need any help, give me a shout. Or, if you need help with your next assignment or your dissertation, let me know. And I think they're encouraged to look for mentors and to network and connect with people. But I think actually I feel like I have a responsibility to almost like encourage them to use me and use my advice and get things out, because I think sometimes they're a bit nervous to do it. So I think as much as we encourage, early career to look for mentors and coaches, I think we should proactively be doing that as well, and kind of encouraging the support and sending them messages. I've done it this week, with some alumni that were talking last night. I sent them messages afterwards going, you did amazing. I know that you were really nervous, but you did amazing. And to give them that support and to do it proactively. And I think that's what I'm taking away at the moment, is that it's good for me. I feel warm and fuzzy inside as well, and I enjoy that, but almost like proactively trying to mentor people so that they feel that they have the support or someone that they can ask, rather than, perhaps them having to lead it, which they're encouraged to do, but we can be more proactive in doing that.
100%. It's us lifting each other up, whether you're a man or a woman. I think the problem with us females sometimes is we're not as brave as, or not even brave, that's the wrong word to use. We're not as bolshy as men are. And I see this with my staff. Like, men will put themselves forward for jobs, way before they're ready for them, whereas their female counterparts just won't. So we do need to do that more, but I think we just need to be there, like you say, to mentor, to educate, to give people the confidence.
To reassure that everyone's just doing okay.
Yeah, exactly. It needs to be fairer, and just talking about it more, I think, helps as well. Luan, you have been an amazing guest. I promise you, it's probably quite a long podcast.
How long have we been talking?
I know, ages. I think probably longer than normal. But because I had so many questions, and it's just been the most enjoyable hour or whatever it's been talking to you. So a big thank you for coming on.
Thank you.